Good morning, second graders. Mrs. Tradle here. It is Thursday, and we are going to talk a little bit about the book Planting the Wild Garden today. The author of the book, Katherine Galbraith, she uses phrases in this book that can be tricky to understand. And so we're going to talk about what we can do as readers when the language in the book is sort of hard to understand. When something gets tricky when we're reading, one of the strategies that we use is to reread the words. Another one is to pay attention to the illustrations, and there are some illustrations in this book, so we'll be taking a look at the illustrations. But one of the strategies we can use is to try to make a picture in our head, to picture what is happening in the story. That sometimes helps us to understand tricky words. And lastly, we think about, does that make sense? Because we want to make sure whatever we're picturing in our head or whatever we think the tricky words might mean makes sense in the story. So we're going to look at a couple of different pages from the book, Planting the Wild Garden. I'm going to reread some text that was on that page because that was one of the strategies, is to reread. And then we're going to talk about, what do you think that really means? So we're here on page 5, and the text says, waves of black and gold dip into the meadow. Well, what does that mean? So I'm going to think about, what is black and gold on the page? Gold is kind of a yellow color. Well, the birds are black and gold. So waves of black and gold, that's the birds. So the birds dip into the meadow. When I close my eyes and I think about what that means, to me, dip means like to go down. So I'm picturing that this means that the birds are dipping down or going down towards the meadow, towards the flowers. When we look at page 7, some of the tricky language that she uses is, it says, under the afternoon sun, the pods of Scotch broom grow hot and dry. Snap, snap, out pop their seeds like popcorn from a pan. How does thinking about popping popcorn help us understand what this phrase would mean? Out pop their seeds like popcorn from a pan. Well, I remember back in the old days when we used to make popcorn in a pan, it would kind of jump out of the pan when it got hot. So I'm picturing, when I think about popcorn, I'm picturing these seeds getting warm and kind of popping or sort of jumping out. And when I look at the illustration on the bottom of page 7, that's sort of what it looks like, that the seeds are kind of bouncing out. So picturing that in my mind helped me to figure that out. On the last page that we're going to look at together, you're going to give this a try. So I'm going to reread the text for you. I want you to kind of make that picture in your mind. And then you're going to think about a couple questions. So the text on this page says, the stream carries seeds too. Gulp, gulp, minnows dine on some. You're going to click on the Google form, which is right under the link for this video lesson, and you're going to answer a couple questions about how gulp, gulp helps us to understand, or what gulp, gulp is first. What does that mean when we say gulp, gulp? And how does that help us understand what is happening to the seeds? Those are the 2 questions you're going to try to answer in the Google form today. Remember, with this strategy, you're rereading the text, which is right here on the slide. You're taking a look at the illustration. You're closing your eyes and thinking, what do you picture when you read those words? And think about, how does that make sense in this story about seeds? I can't wait to see your responses.